Good morning. We are here on Wednesday, and this is actually the first day of Lent today. Ash Wednesday for those of you who celebrate this season, the Lenten season, leading up to Easter. I actually wrote an article yesterday on Lent because it's not something really I had celebrated much in my Christian walk, and I used to joke that I thought Lent had something to do with fuzzies on my sweater. But you know, it is a real unique time where we can go before God and just humbly examine ourselves and think about the sacrifice Christ did. So this can be a pretty neat season, and there's devotionals and things out there that you can find for free to also encourage. I'll actually stick a link today that I found one from John Piper that is about hungering after God, and if people choose to fast during this time as well. But anyway, today we are in the book of Genesis again, chapters 33 through 36, and we pick up at this place where Jacob and Esau are meeting one another after over 20 years of separation. And so here you have these two twin brothers, and you can feel the tension in the air. Here comes Jacob, and he sends his slave wives up first, followed by Leah, then Rachel, a whole throng. He sends gifts, and as he's coming up and sees Esau, he's bowing down 7 times. He's humbling himself. Do you remember why he would do this? If you remember, he deceived his brother for his birthright and his blessing. And so he's a little nervous about how Esau is going to encounter him. Last he heard, Esau wanted to kill him. So there's a little bit of nervousness here. But the sibling rivalry, at the root of this rivalry is a desire to have something someone else has. Coveting, right? But if Esau had this blessing and this birthright that were so important, why did he so easily give that birthright? If you remember, for some lentil stew. I'm thinking, could it have been ribs or something? Back to the Sennacherib. But no, lentil stew, he gave that away. But if we look at Jacob and how he wanted what wasn't his, if he had been at a place of trusting that God was going to give him, God had plans for him. He didn't need to connive, to deceive, to get those plans and to covet. And I think that's something we can look at ourselves today, that we don't have to try to make things happen. You know, we just have to be faithful with what God has given us and trust that he has a plan. So Jacob humbled himself before his brother with all these gifts. He's seeking his favor. But fear, once again, he's like, good to see you, but I'm going over here to Succoth. I'm going to leave you again. That's what it does. There's the fruit of not being honest in your relationships, and not just being genuinely happy for people with their blessing and trusting God with what he's given you. That's ugly fruit, right? So in Genesis 34, Jacob's daughter Dinah was raped by Shechem, the son of Hamor. Jacob's son's payback for Shechem was basically all those, it was against Shechem, his dad, against all who lived in the city. Now the anger over the sin wasn't wrong, but how they went about with the payback was. They used this divine covenant sign of circumcision to make the men vulnerable. While they're still writhing in pain, they slaughtered the whole city. So I'd like to hear what y'all's thoughts are about that. But the consequences for the descendants of Simeon and Levi who perpetrated this act were that their descendants would be dispersed among Israel with no definite allotment or territory. So here's the thing about this. We can trust that God sees when people harm us. I remember as a little girl wondering if God saw when someone was trying to sexually abuse me, why doesn't he do something more? If you've ever had that thought, if you've been a victim, why does God allow these things? And so I think at that point, Jacob's sons were basically taking matters into their own hands, and they were saying, we see it, we're going to deal with it. But there is this haunting, you will, of when hard things happen in our life. And I can tell you that I was at a place when the discovery of sexual abuse being in my own home, that I was like, I don't even know how we can heal from this. I don't even know how my kids can heal from this. And I remember just weeping before God in church and crying out, and Him meeting me in that place. God is able to heal, most definitely. And we don't have to resort to the actions that Jacob's sons did. You know, we can trust our God is our defender, and our God heals us. And so I just want to say that if, you know, a couple of days ago, I interviewed some authors of the book Worthy, and it is a book about women's worth, because we live in a society that with this feminist agenda tries to declare women are worthy, but in a wrong way. And the worth that women have is so torn down, actually, in this society. And so that book, I think, is coming out in April. I know my episode is too. You guys might enjoy reading that, because in the book it reveals how Satan wants to attack women, because why? Our deliverer came through a woman. And right there in the Garden of Eden, we see a promise given. And so there is this anger toward women. And so we see rape, we see sexual abuse, we see this, really who is behind all that is Satan attacking. And our God is able to restore. I just want to encourage with that message today. So if you're a woman today and you've suffered in this way, I just want to tell you, our God is enough. And His word is a refuge. And it has been for me. So the scripture of the day is taken from Genesis 35, verses 2 through 3. It says, "So Jacob told everyone in his household, 'Get rid of all your pagan idols, purify yourselves, and put on clean clothing. We are now going to Bethel, where I will build an altar to the God who answered my prayers when I was in distress. He has been with me wherever I have gone.'" Do you notice that theme that keeps coming back? God with us. You see, even when we go through horrific things on this earth, we have a God who is present, and He is able to enable us at those times. But periodically, when I was raising my children when they were little, we would have days where we would examine everything in the house, kind of like what Jacob's saying right here. Get rid of any idols. Get rid of anything that isn't pleasing to God. And we would be surprised that stuff sneaks in. Worldliness creeps in, even to our home that's a refuge. You know, we didn't have cable for most of the time my kids were growing up. We didn't do like the video gaming thing, didn't have phones until they were older. They did briefly during one time, and I saw that that was a mistake. But you see, it's this evaluation we have to do. We never arrive, and so we need to continually put ourselves before God and say, Lord, if there's anything in my house that displeases you, an idol, let me get rid of it. And so we may not have these like little pagan ancient idols in our house, but what is it that is heavy on our mind and heart? What is it that might be distracting us? And so, you know, obviously smartphones, you know where I'm going with this. There's a lot of things. And so this was a great thing that Jacob's doing here. It's cleaning house. So, and we do this in humility because we recognize that we're capable of falling, and that this faith is a fight. It is a fight. We have to constantly resist sin. And I'm writing about that in my paper that's due at the end of this week, a biblical exposition on the book of Romans. Read it. Good stuff. So, but there are things that we have in our home that might be taking a place in our heart that belongs to only God. So I encourage you to do that. Ask God about it. He will reveal it as we are willing to examine our heart and our ways. So our reading in Genesis today concluded with the death of Rachel after she bore Benjamin, and then the death of Isaac. And so, you know, I hope that you guys are able to get into the Word and even just kind of ask some questions as you're reading it, because there's always so much more there than what we're reading. So it's a joy, you guys, and I will say tomorrow I have kind of an unexpected surgery that has come about, and so I'm hoping to meet you here in the morning, and then I'm going to see what Friday looks like. I may need a pre-record just in case. But anyway, appreciate prayers for that. And you guys, go with God. Take a look around you in your house and just get rid of anything that stands in the way of walking fervently with our great God. All right, talk to you later. Take care. Bye-bye.